The king laid a wreath of red poppies at the Cenotaph War Memorial during 2 minutes of silence to honor those killed in war. Queen Camilla and the Princess of Wales watched from a nearby balcony.
Queen Camilla rarely makes headlines for the right reasons, and what she did at the Remembrance Sunday balcony has got people talking. While King Charles honored fallen soldiers with teary eyes, cameras caught his wife doing something that's divided the internet into two camps. Expert lip readers read her lips. What did she do? Did she really do something wrong? Or is she under attack simply because of who she is? Join us as we find out how Queen Camilla made it to the black books at the Cenotaph. Royal fans lose it over Camilla's balcony behavior. November 9th began like any other Remembrance Sunday. 76-year-old King Charles stood before the Cenotaph in London, leading the nation in 2 minutes of silence. 10,000 veterans marched down Whitehall while Big Ben struck 11, its deep chime echoing through the still air. For a brief moment, the entire country seemed to hold its breath. Then something happened on the balcony that nobody saw coming. Queen Camilla stood beside Princess Kate at the Foreign Office building. Both were dressed in black, both watching quietly. Camilla, 78, had 3 poppies pinned to her coat. Kate wore one. Every small detail mattered to royal watchers. Then, Camilla began to shuffle the papers in her hands, probably the program for the morning. She looked down, whispered a word, almost to herself. Wow, that was it. Lip reader Jeremy Freeman told the Mirror. He saw her say it as she took in the sight of the veterans below. Some people thought it was sweet that she was moved. Others said it was out of place. You don't murmur or fidget when the country mourns. Not at the Cenotaph, not with cameras rolling. And then came the moment that truly split opinions. Body language expert Judy James noticed Camilla's eyes as Charles stepped back from laying his wreath. James said she gave him an unusually powerful look of love and support, a closed lip smile, and soft eyes that spoke without words. A silent, "Well done." It should have been tender, maybe even comforting. But Remembrance Sunday isn't about affection. It's about respect and restraint. The royal code is simple. Stand still, stay solemn, remember the fallen. Camilla's glance broke that invisible rule. Critics didn't hold back. This day isn't about them, one royal watcher wrote online. It's about soldiers who died. Others defended her, saying she was just supporting her husband, who was battling cancer after a difficult ceremony. The argument spread fast. Team Camilla versus Team Protocol. It was also her first Remembrance Sunday back after missing the previous year due to illness. Some thought she was trying too hard. 3 poppies instead of 1, standing right beside Kate, visibly emotional. Judy James added that Charles seemed especially isolated and reflective, his movements careful, his expression heavy. Camilla's response, she said, made that vulnerability visible. Was it empathy or a break in royal decorum? That's the question. Because royal duty often demands silence, no emotion, no reaction, and no spotlight. Kate stood beside her, perfectly composed. Camilla didn't. And in that small difference, the world found something to argue about. But Camilla's balcony moment wasn't the real surprise that day. What truly turned heads were the people who didn't show up. The royal family's most awkward reunion. This was the first time the royal family had appeared together in public since King Charles made a move that shook the monarchy to its core. He formally stripped his younger brother of his royal titles. Prince Andrew, now just Andrew, lost everything. His Windsor home, Forest Lodge, is gone. His role erased. The reason? Renewed attention on his long and troubling connection with Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew's absence from the Cenotaph said more than any palace statement ever could. For years, he'd stood with his siblings, medals pinned to his chest, representing the royal family's military past. But on November 9th, his place was empty. Body language analyst Judy James would have described the gathering as a severely diminished royal group. Behind the king stood only 2 men, Prince William and Prince Edward, 3 figures where there used to be 4. James said Charles looked especially isolated and reflective, his posture carrying the strain of that missing presence. The picture was unmistakable, the monarchy smaller, thinner, cracked. And then came another blow. Princess Anne wasn't there either. Anne, who's never missed a Remembrance Sunday in her life. She's Colonel-in-Chief of countless regiments, the President of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, and the royal who rarely falters. This year, she was in Australia officially. It was work. Attending the Anzac Memorial in Sydney, laying a wreath for the centenary of the Royal Australian Corps of Signals, a worthy cause. Sure, but the timing couldn't have been worse. The trip was announced weeks ahead, meaning she knew she'd be leaving her brother standing alone at the Cenotaph. Some say it was a duty, others think it was distance. From the scandal, from the tension, from the whole royal storm. While Charles looked frail, carefully stepping back after laying his wreath, the message was impossible to miss. William stood behind him, Edward too. But where Andrew and Anne should have been, there was nothing. Space that told the whole story. Remembrance Sunday is supposed to show unity and sacrifice. Yet this year, the family that symbolizes both looked fractured. Political leaders filled the gaps. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, Kemi Badenoch, and Ed Davey all stood together. The royals didn't. 10,000 veterans marched. 20 from World War II joined, some barely able to stand. They showed up. They stood tall. 2 senior royals didn't. One was banished. The other, half a world away. 80 years after the war's end, Britain honored courage and unity. But the royal family, meant to embody both, stood scattered, divided, and heartbreakingly apart. Even with all the royal tension and unease in the air, nobody expected what came next. Cancer survivor who hijacked the king's event and made him weep. Before the Cenotaph, balcony whispers. Long before this year's royal drama unfolded, something powerful happened. Back in August, King Charles and Queen Camilla attended the VJ Day commemoration at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire. Around 1,500 guests filled the grounds. BBC cameras rolled. Everything moved smoothly following the royal script, until one man quietly decided to ignore it. A 105-year-old veteran named Yavar Abbas rose to speak, a former captain from the 11th Sikh Regiment. He was supposed to read passages from his wartime diary, entries from Burma in 1945, stories of heat, chaos, and courage. But when he looked out at the crowd, then toward the king, something changed. He closed his notebook. "I make no apologies for briefly going off the script to salute my brave king," he began. The air froze. This wasn't in the program. The audience leaned forward. Abbas turned to Charles directly. "My brave king, who is here with his beloved queen, even though he is under treatment for cancer." Those words hit like a thunderclap. For the first time, someone had said out loud what the palace had quietly avoided. Abbas wasn't finished. He revealed his own story, his own cancer battle, 25 years in remission, and then saluted Charles again. "By his presence here," he said, "he's made sure his grandfather's 14th Army will never again be called the Forgotten Army." The crowd broke into applause that seemed to go on forever. Witnesses said both Charles and Camilla were in tears, but the moment divided people. Some said Abbas crossed a line, bringing up the king's illness during a national ceremony. Others argued that at 105 years old, after everything he'd lived through, he'd earned the right to speak from the heart. Abbas's story gave context to his words. Born in Lucknow, India, he'd joined the British Indian Army during the Second World War, a nationalist who still fought under the Empire's flag, armed with a pistol and a Vinton film camera. He filmed the battles of Imphal, Kohima, and Mandalay. He said he fought for democracy, freedom, and all that is good about humanity. So when he spoke to Charles, it was about showing up even when you're broken. His salute wasn't defiance of protocol, it was recognition, one survivor acknowledging another. That August moment became the prelude to what unfolded in November. Sophie's tears and Charles's dark joke. While cameras stayed glued to Camilla and Kate on the palace balcony, few noticed what was happening across the street. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, stood apart on another balcony, overlooking the Cenotaph beside the recently widowed Duke of Kent. The two held their posture, heads bowed, faces solemn, doing everything royal duty demanded. Then came Prince Edward's turn. He stepped forward, placed his wreath, saluted, and walked back down the steps. Routine, nothing out of place. But up above, Sophie began to cry. Not a discreet dab at the eye, but real, visible tears. She lifted her hand, trying to hide her face, but the cameras caught it. Later, experts would analyze the moment, saying this wasn't a simple emotion. It looked like something deeper was breaking through. Remembrance Sunday always tugs at the heart. Sure, Sophie's been to plenty. She knows the drill. She knows when to keep her composure. But this time was different. Maybe it was watching her husband standing where Andrew once did, with space beside him that no one filled. Maybe it was seeing how few the royals have become. Those empty spaces, those silences, they say more than any headline ever could. And then, There was the king. Just days earlier, Charles had visited Chatfield Healthcare in Battersea, a National Health Service center for veterans. He chatted with men and women who'd seen war, spoke about PTSD, recovery, and the long road of coming home. Then came a joke that left many uneasy. "I've got endless plates and screws in my arm," he said. "All that's left of you when you drop dead is made in Switzerland." The veterans laughed. That's the kind of humor that lives in barracks and hospitals. Dark, heavy, real. But some experts watching later didn't laugh. They wondered if that line said more than Charles intended. Words like "drop dead" hit differently when they come from a man fighting cancer. At the Cenotaph, body language watchers noticed the king's careful steps, the way he swallowed hard, the stiffness in his frame. Maybe pain, maybe fatigue, maybe both. Together with that morbid joke, it painted a picture few wanted to see. A 76-year-old monarch quietly fighting his body while holding the weight of the crown. And maybe that's what Sophie saw too. Maybe those tears weren't only for the fallen, but for the living, her brother-in-law's frailty, her husband's burden, and the monarchy's slow unraveling. Among the crowd that day were around 20 veterans from the Second World War, men in their late 90s and even beyond 100. The applause they got felt heavy with farewell. One of them, Donald Poole, 101, said softly afterwards, "I know how lucky I am to still be here." Maybe Sophie did too. Maybe those tears carried the same thought: luck, gratitude, and the fear that the things they're holding on to are slipping away. While Sophie wiped her tears and Charles joked darkly about death, something else was happening in plain sight. A show of power wrapped in ceremony. Camilla versus Kate and the fight for position. Most people watch who steps forward to lay the wreaths at the cenotaph, but for those who follow royal protocol closely, it's the wreaths themselves that whisper the real story. Every color, every ribbon, every design detail, none of it's random. It's all intentional. King Charles's wreath followed royal tradition to the letter, poppies arranged on black leaves, just like those used by his grandfather, King George VI, and his mother, Queen Elizabeth. The ribbon carried his racing colors, scarlet, purple, and gold. It was expected, formal, and precisely what a reigning monarch should present. Then came Queen Camilla's wreath, and that's where things took an interesting turn. An equerry placed it on her behalf, since consorts observe from the balcony rather than walk in the ceremony. Yet her wreath carried meaning of its own. The colors came from her grandfather's racing silks, but the design echoed the Queen Mother's wreath, not Queen Elizabeth's, but her mother's. The same Queen Mother who once defined grace and quiet strength, standing on that same balcony for decades. That wasn't by chance. Camilla was sending a message. She was aligning herself with the Queen Mother's image, the supportive consort, the steady presence behind the throne. It's clever, really. The Queen Mother was adored because she never competed with her daughter. She supported her. And that's what Camilla's doing with Charles, playing the loyal partner, not the rival. But standing right beside her was Kate. Both women in black, both watching in silence. Yet their position said everything. Last year, when Camilla was ill, Kate held the senior balcony spot, the prime position for royal women. This year, Camilla was back, reclaiming her place, and Kate was moved to second, the pecking order restored. Body language experts said they sang the anthem together, appearing calm and united. But anyone who knows royal protocol understands placement is power. Camilla's the queen consort now, but she's 78, and her reign's borrowed time. Kate, at 42, is the future. She knows it. The cameras know it. Everyone knows it. Prince William's wreath, marked with the Prince of Wales' feathers and tied with a deep red Welsh ribbon, quietly declared, "My turn's next." Together, the three wreaths told one story. Charles honoring the past, Camilla clinging to legacy, and William inching toward the future. Kate didn't lay a wreath. She just watched silently, waiting, knowing her moment's coming, but not yet. Yet the most unsettling moment of this year's Remembrance Sunday had nothing to do with Camilla, Kate, or even Charles. It centered on a 12-year-old boy sitting in the Royal Albert Hall, taking in performances filled with death, sacrifice, and the horrors of war. And somehow, no one's asking the question that matters most. Should a child that age have been there at all? 12 years old prince who shouldn't have been there. On Saturday evening, November 8th, the night before the Cenotaph ceremony, the royal family attended the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall. King Charles entered first, followed by Queen Camilla, then Princess Kate. The audience rose, a fanfare swelled, and 12-year-old Prince George walked in with them. It was George's first time at the annual event. He sat beside his mother as performers took the stage. Sir Rod Stewart sang, Sam Ryder performed Blessing Offer, and Keela Settle delivered stirring tributes. The Wellermen added their voices. Every note, every line, every performance was about loss, sacrifice, and the high cost of war. George is 12, 7th grade age, a child by any normal definition, and he spent his Saturday evening surrounded by content about death and trauma. Child development experts are already asking questions. Is this appropriate? Should a preteen be exposed to this level of emotional intensity? What message does this send about childhood versus duty? The royal family carries a long military legacy. William served as a search and rescue pilot. Harry went on 2 tours in Afghanistan. Charles served in the Royal Navy. Prince Philip had a distinguished naval career. King George VI fought in World War I. Military service runs deep in the bloodline. Future kings are expected to understand it firsthand. But George is 12. He isn't enlisting. He isn't training. He can't grasp the full weight of what he sees. He's a child watching adults honor fallen soldiers. The next morning at the Cenotaph, George saw it all again. He watched his grandfather lay a wreath, tears in his eyes. He watched his father lay one. 10,000 veterans marched past, including 20 men who fought in World War II. He watched elderly heroes, some barely able to stand, refuse to quit. Every step carried weight. Every glance demanded attention. Some argue this is preparation. George will be king. He must understand sacrifice, respect veterans, feel the weight of service so he can lead. Others argue it's child abuse masquerading as royal duty. George didn't choose this life, and now he's forced to participate in ceremonies that are emotionally devastating for adults. Saturday night, a concert about death. Sunday morning, Veterans March. Grandfather crying, father solemn, mother silent. A controversial queen beside them, George is supposed to process all this as a 12 years old, while he still has homework, video games, and friendships. By Tuesday at Windsor Castle, Charles hosted a reception for Pacific World War II veterans. George watched again. He learned, absorbed the lesson that duty outweighs personal comfort, that showing up matters more than feeling safe. Earlier in 2025, George participated in 4 days of VE Day commemorations, marches, RAF flypasts, ceremonies. The weight of tradition, sacrifice, and duty is being drilled into him early. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer spoke of the extraordinary courage of armed forces. Beautiful words. But what of the cost to the child being groomed to carry that weight? George sat through it all, 12 years old, experiencing grief, duty, and the weight of history. His childhood isn't his own. The monarchy is, duty is. And this was just the beginning. This is how the royal family trains its heirs, early, relentlessly, preparing them to pay a cost they didn't choose, but that tradition demands. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, leave nice comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting content. Check out another interesting video by clicking on the video appearing on your screen right now.